Good morning, friends. Housekeeping first, so just a reminder to please turn off your phone or place it on airplane mode and mute. Apparently the airplane mode helps our friends on Zoom. And good morning, Zoom people. Our first hymn will be in worship and song, number 2, All Creatures of Our God and King. And please stand as you're able. just saying that was kind of fun. I tend to be a soprano, and I called Phil an alto on one side, and I don't know if that's right. He says, "Is that what I am?"
I just always thought I sang off key.
And then I've got a bass on the other side. That was kind of cool. Oh, gosh. Oh, what are we doing? What am I doing? So I think last week, was it just last week? I think it was, that I shared with everyone that my dear Uncle Bob passed away last week. And he was 97, almost 98. His birthday would have been December 16th. And he led a beautiful life. So it was a celebration, and my family was together Monday for the memorial service, and then Tuesday for the burial service, which was way down in Brown County, where he lived, because his wife, my Aunt Lucy, who passed a while back, her family actually homesteaded that property down in Story, and it's just beautiful. And there's an old cemetery, or as my grandmother would say, a cemetery down there. And it's beautiful. It's out in the open. And, as we were having the service, I could hear the birds in the background. And it was really, of course, sad. We're mourning, but also very joyful. And I just thought, I knew my Uncle Bob would just love that, the beauty of it, and the bird song and everything. But that part of my family doesn't really get together that often. It's one of those things, you see each other at funerals and stuff, which is just terrible. But, I hadn't seen some of the kids in the family for a really long time, and they were all grown. The passage of time. And it got me to thinking about, these young people who are in this world today and who are sort of starting out and going out into the bigger world. And, I'm looking around at the bigger world, and I'm thinking about the shape of things in the world, and it's not so good. So I think about those kids, and I was just thinking that I needed some hope, and they would too. And this is something that I don't know how this came to me, but what I want to share this morning, and forgive me, it is on my phone, because my printer's not working right now. I don't know why. But this is, let me get it opened here. Go. What I want to share is a recycling of Amanda Gorman's inauguration poem that she read for President Biden's inauguration in January of 2021. It's called "The Hill We Climb," and I find it very hopeful, and I feel like that's what I need right now, is hope and optimism. I tend to be that way, but right now, with the shape of things, it's getting trickier and trickier to maintain. So I thought, this gives me hope. It's a reminder, and I thought of it because of these kids going out in the world, and so I thought I would share this with my Fairfield family as well. Now, I'm no Amanda Gorman. I just want to make that disclaimer. So, when day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe, now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation and in every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. All right, if all hearts are clear, we will move to announcements, and we will start with our friends on Zoom. I am not seeing anyone nor hearing anyone. All right, let's move to friends here in the meeting house.
Okay, you're going to be seeing and hearing me for the whole month. It's 1 month until the books and brunch. Sign-up sheets are out on the table. There's a list of exactly what people are signing up for, either a time to work or a food to bring. The foods are pretty precise, like coffee cake and breakfast casserole, but there are some sample recipes out there. You don't have to use those. If you've got a favorite breakfast casserole, bring that, doesn't matter. But they do need to be homemade. That doesn't mean from scratch. That means you heated up something in your own kitchen. But they do need to be homemade, nothing pre-packaged from the grocery. That's how we get people into this, is that it's a little above the cut. So sign up to work, cook, and there are also things to sign up for, non-cooks. There are bananas and oranges and coffee and all kinds of things. You don't have to do anything but go to the grocery store. So those of you who don't cook, there's still things you can sign up for. The recipes that are out there, the green ones are all things you can make ahead and freeze. If you want to cook and don't have time right then, you can make those ahead and freeze them. The others, many of them you can make the night before. They're labeled. But as I say, you don't have to use any of those recipes. You can use your own mother's favorite coffee cake, whatever. Let's see. Do I need to say anything else? No, I guess that's all I need to say on that. Sign up. We need you. Read exactly what you're signing up for, though. And you can see me or Sue, either one, for a little further detail if you want it.
Hi, good morning. I'm Becky Horton from the Outreach Committee, and you will be seeing me for the next probably 4 to 6 weeks every Sunday, reminding you of the outreach. It's collecting food for the Kunat Thanksgiving food distribution. We need the mac and cheese, like the instant mac and cheese boxes, stovetop stuffing type of mix. It doesn't have to be that brand, just the instant kind, and canned green beans. We need 300 of each item. Last year we collected 250 plus, so I know we'll easily do it again this year. Usually I will tell you how much we've collected so you know how much we still need to bring. However, we weren't here last Sunday, so I have no idea what's in the pantry. It could be overflowing, or there could be 2 items. So by this time next Sunday, I will be able to tell you how much we still need. So get out there and shop. Mac and cheese, stuffing mix, canned green beans.
Joanne Gulley here. Just a quick reminder, we have book club today. So if you're part of the book club, come discuss.
Bill Smith, CPR AED choking training is October 18th. So I just wanted to remind everybody it's 1 o'clock on a Friday. Anybody wants to participate, they need to get in touch with me so that I can know how many we're going to have. Thank you.
For all those, Mary Dooley, for all those with an interest in Earth care and our planet's health, Al Gore's Climate Reality Project is doing a free online training from the 17th to the 23rd. You can participate in seminars at either live or whenever is convenient for you. So if you're interested, check out the Climate Reality Project leadership training.
I'll jump in. I see a lull. I'll jump in. I want to remind everybody that Saturday, this very next Saturday, October 12, is the fall hike. It will be at DePaul Nature Park, and I was actually just there yesterday because I did want to check out the status of the roads, which is a little bit of an issue, I'm not going to lie. But the status of the trails is wonderful. It was a beautiful day, and it looks like, so far, looks like Saturday will be a beautiful day as well. We will meet at the pavilion at the nature park, at 10 o'clock, I believe, is the appointed time. And we'll have maybe the hike and then a light lunch that will be provided by the Peace and Social Justice Committee. So I think the weather is going to be really great. So I hope to see a lot of folks out there for a nice time. The issue on the roads, there's construction right in Greencastle around the square. But when I got home, so I've lived out, that way for a lot of years. So I can, it's a matter of winding through some of the side roads. But when I got home, I just got on Google Maps to see how it would take me. And even the Google Maps routed around the construction. So I think if you follow that, and I'll ask Jeff to send out another link this week. And I think, did the one we send out before have directions or a link or something? I'll get the link where you can do a search and then it'll have the map if you link into that. So that should be good. But it's a lovely park. If you're not aware of it, it's an old quarry that has been allowed to sort of rewild. And it's really pretty. Some part of it has filled into a pond. And as I was walking the other day, I'd never seen fish down in there. The water's super clear. I saw probably 12 or 14-inch fish that looked like a bass or something. It was kind of amazing. It's beautiful. So hopefully we'll see everybody there. Any other announcements?
Yes. I don't know the details. On Friday. Bobby Lancaster, and we're bringing in a guitarist from Santa Fe, New Mexico, who I guess is phenomenal. It will be our second Concert for Democracy. Please join us. And the funds that we are raising will be going to the League of Women Voters to help with their voting drives and initiatives. They're really starting to take that seriously and do what they can, both on a legislative front and in a very practical way, to drive voter registration. So Friday, November 1st, 7 p.m., Concert for Democracy.
Just to add, if you go to our Facebook page, there is an event page for the concert. If you could just go there and say, yes, we're coming, that gives us a head count, kind of an idea of what to expect. So thanks.
I will say Bobby Lancaster is so good too. I don't know, can't vouch for the guitarist, can vouch for Tim and Bobby Lancaster. Wow, really good. So I believe it's time for our community prayer, and I believe our friend Jackson is going to provide that for us.
Friends, as we hold these joys and concerns in the light, let's take a little time for prayer. God of many names and helpers of humanity, known, unknown, remembered and forgotten, you who already know our needs, please help us to awaken to what those needs are. Please be with the students, teachers, and administrators of schools and colleges that are going on for the fall term, and especially be with those of the Ramallah Friends School in Palestine as they navigate very, very turbulent and violent times. Please be with our country as we prepare to vote in the upcoming elections. And please lift up those who are working towards election violence prevention. Please be with the folks of Asheville, North Carolina, and everyone dealing with the effects of Hurricane Helen. Please be with everyone in the Middle East currently experiencing violence. We'd like to lift up the name of Cindy Anderson as she navigates her health concerns. Please be with families who are entering into a time of grief. And please be with those who are in need of health and healing. And as we process our fears and anxieties, help us to center and find moments of gratitude. Please be with those who long pain and sorrow bear. And please fulfill the scriptures that everyone shall sit underneath their vine and fig tree and make war no more. I pray for these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
For a strong wife who grew up on a farm and is accustomed to feeding animals, and I know would be happy to help gather food this morning. And so, Joanne and John, are you feeling robust this morning? Our two strong J's. Here we go. Oh, a strong wife. I remember when we were first married. We'd been married maybe a week. And I said, we are going to wrestle to see who is in charge of this marriage, this household. And she pinned me. And I learned my place real quick. I've been thinking a lot these past few days about the past and significant moments in my life when I have met people who've had a profound effect on my life and outlook. And I was thinking especially this week, not only of Joanne, but of my friend Jim Mulholland, who I met at seminary. Jim grew up in Greenville, Illinois, where his father taught philosophy at Greenville College, and his father before him, Jim's grandfather. So Jim was just steeped in the waters of academia, which I realized when I first met him in 1982. A group of us were discussing the Iran-Contra scandal involving Oliver North and John Poindexter, two men who betrayed their oath of office. One of our fellow students was talking about how we convince ourselves we are acting nobly when we are part of a larger movement. We do things as a member of a group that we would never do as individuals. Then Jim said, this is why Soren Kierkegaard said we must live as single individuals. Our morality must take into account the importance of personal choice and commitment. Now, I have to tell you, I was really impressed by Jim's citation of Soren Kierkegaard and a bit embarrassed because while he was quoting Kierkegaard, I was thinking of Snuffy Smith with an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, whispering in his ears. Remember that? Of course, I wasn't about ready to say that after Jim quoted Kierkegaard, but I will say it now, that Snuffy Smith might be one of the finest moral theologians of the past 50 years. But doesn't that capture our dilemma perfectly? We walk through life with an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, each one vying for our attention. Now, even if you don't believe in literal angels and devils, and I'm not inclined to, we all experience the tension between our desire to do good and our temptation to be less, to care less, to love less. Our moral life is a life of conflict and struggle, with good and evil whispering in our ears, contending for dominance. Morality might be a personal choice, but it is also a collective choice. The health and well-being of our world is dependent not only upon the world's individual actors, upon our personal conduct. The health and well-being of our world is also dependent upon the conduct of nations, of corporations, of governments, of religious bodies, of all our collective enterprises. In the weeks ahead, I want us to think about the do's and don'ts in times of change. Of course, change is always happening. We forget that change has always been present and always will be. But there are moments in history when change is magnified and multiplied by cultural events, and we are certainly living in such a moment now. The droughts and floods of climate change in Central and South America have displaced subsistence farmers, driving them north. Wars and violence are creating refugees around the globe. Others, hoping to escape grinding poverty, are seeking economic opportunities elsewhere. And so we are experiencing the escalating migration of people and cultures. Events like these not only challenge us, our response to them defines us. Events like these not only challenge us, our response to them defines us. We are now having to assimilate people who do not look like us, speak like us, worship like us, and think like us. But I believe with all my heart, they feel like us. I believe with all my heart they love their children and grandchildren like us. I believe with all my heart they want their children to attend school, to learn, to grow, to have opportunities they did not have. And I believe with all my heart that at the end of the day, they, like us, want a safe place to lie their heads. I also believe with all my heart that this is a wonderful opportunity, not just for them, but for us. Being with people who aren't like us has the potential of expanding our lives in marvelous directions. New friendships, new foods, new customs, new insights, new opportunities, new markets, new infusions of thought, all of which save us from cultural and economic stagnation. The great preacher William Sloane Coffin said, "Diversity may be the hardest thing for a society to live with, and perhaps the most dangerous thing for a society to be without." I'm going to say that again. Diversity may be the hardest thing for a society to live with, and perhaps the most dangerous thing for a society to be without. If you have been paying attention, and I know you have, you also know that many people and many institutions, including the church, abhor change. They resent having to accommodate the customs of others. Accustomed to privilege, they are reluctant to share power, so react to change not only with fear, but also with violence. It seems like just yesterday that young men themselves, the descendants of immigrants, carried tiki torches while marching in Charlottesville, chanting, "You will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. Sig Heil, one people, one nation, and immigration." In our list of do's and don'ts, this is a don't. Nevertheless, too many American Christians echo that sentiment. The Harvard economist John Kenneth Galbraith wrote way back in 2002, "The modern religious conservative is engaged in one of man's oldest exercises in moral philosophy. That is the search for a superior justification for selfishness." The search for a superior justification for selfishness. But there is no justification for selfishness. There is no biblical tradition, no Christian practice which can be interpreted to support self-interest, bigotry, and hatred. And there is certainly no aspect of Quakerism that can permit such meanness of spirit. Weaponizing our faith against others is to heed the devil on one shoulder and not the angel on the other. It is to reject the example of Jesus Christ utterly and thoroughly, who welcomed into his life the native born and the immigrant, who gathered around him the Jew and the Gentile, the Pharisee and the Samaritan, the powerful and the poor, never once seeking a superior justification for selfishness. I was speaking with someone this week who confessed to being worried by the challenges we face in our nation. And I've been thinking about that all week. And I have to tell you, I don't feel that same worry. I feel these days the way I felt about Christmas as a child. I believe something wonderful is approaching, that nobility and grace will carry the day. I believe that. I believe that our cultural differences and the changes underway will prove ultimately to be a radiant gift. That light will prevail and good will win. I believe this with all my heart. With all my heart. I read a court case this week involving Hendricks County, the county in which our meeting house is located. In 2021, the county commissioners denied Muslims a right to build a school, a seminary for their clergy, and a mixed-use neighborhood where they and others could live. Our county was found guilty of religious discrimination by the Southern District Court of Indiana, and we were fined $300,000. The magistrate said there can be no room in Hendricks County in the crossroads of America for religious bigotry. And I thought to myself, why is the court having to do the church's business? The three commissioners who withheld permission belonged to churches in this county, conservative evangelical churches, and the court had to step up and tell them the right thing to do when anybody who sits in a pew in any church ought to know the right thing to do. That we extend always to people who are different from us a warm and welcoming hand. That we do not depend upon the law to force us to do the right thing. We depend upon the heart to woo us to be the right kind of people. I was reading the transcripts of the court case, which involved the public's input at public meetings, and what I read was dreadful. The comments made by people. It was a clear case of people moving to a community and then just as soon as they are settled, wanting to close the gate behind them. There is no place in the life of a Christian to want to close a gate to someone else. Ask yourself always, is what I am about to do, is who I am about to be, closing a gate or opening it?
This is Mike Goss. Just this morning I finished an amazing and moving book, which I commend to you all, especially in light of Phil's message this morning. It's called The Barn, B-A-R-N, and ostensibly it's about the torture and death of a 14-year-old boy in 1955 named Emmett Till. But it's not just about the murder of Emmett Till. It's about the political and social and economic forces that led those men to kill that boy. It goes all the way back to Reconstruction after the Civil War, and when steps were being made to have changes so that Black Americans could have a say-so in their lives, and they began to vote. And some of them began to take public office. There were those who fought against it and turned the system around, and once again put a heel on the neck of those people. Took steps to keep them from voting. Took steps to keep them from holding public office. Took steps to keep them from owning land. And essentially reinstituted slavery through the sharecropper system. And then in the early 50s, when Brown versus Board of Education was passed, once again, people fought back. No, we will not allow our children to go to school with those children, and opened private schools so they could avoid that outcome, and refused to comply with the court order for years. And the people involved in that actual murder that I mentioned were related to each other. They had shared ancestors, because slaves on those plantations were impregnated by their masters. And so the killers and the victim and the jurors were related to each other, and yet this tragedy happened. And the author makes the point that when change is coming, there are people who will fight it. And for that glorious new day to come, we as individuals and as a society must be willing to continue pushing forward. The book is called The Barn where Emmett Till was murdered.
This is Paula Cardoza-Jones again. I've heard that to kind of dispel bigotry, go travel, see other people, learn who they are, but you don't have to travel that far. I just travel about 5 miles from my home, and I volunteer at an English as a second language class at the Eagle Branch, the Indianapolis Library. I don't even know how I found out about this class, but it's sponsored by the Immigrant Welcome Center. And so 2 mornings a week for 2 hours, I go there, and I'm a teacher's helper. And the class is just amazing. I mean, you don't have to travel. There are people in the class from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Congo, from Nigeria, from Ethiopia, from Eritrea, and other places, and they are amazing students. This is a very, very basic level beginner class. Many of these students, I'm involved with a family from Congo. Neither the parents went to school at all. Many of them are starting out, they're not literate in their own language. They can speak maybe 3 or 4, but they're really struggling to learn English so they can become citizens. And don't have to, like I say, you don't have to travel very far if you want to meet people that will be the most impressive people you'll meet in your life. Just kind of get involved in serving immigrants.
To that point, I think of another way to get to know people, their cultures. So in my office, we have a lot of folks from all over the world, a lot of people from India, and one way I found to really get to know them and know some of the values of their culture, and find the commonalities actually through food. So one of my colleagues, Monsi, she and I actually became friends when we were working remote on a project. She was on the other side of the world in Mumbai. I'm here in Indianapolis. And anyway, we found connection over, an architect we both admire. And but eventually she actually got a job in my office. She's over here working with me. And one thing I've really found is that, in this community, what's so beautiful about it is going to the places where other people eat, like going to other cultures, grocery stores, going to the restaurants, and letting people who know that place show you that. And it just sparks up all kinds of interesting conversation. And it's something I've really enjoyed, and it's helped me really connect with some of my friends who are, from different backgrounds. I found we have so much more in common than not. And I've learned a lot of new things along the way, so.
I love the, buoyancy that seemed to be implied from what you were saying, Phil, about expecting the good. Having started out speaking about, Snuffy Smith and the evil on one side and the good inclination on the other. You concluding with having the expectation of goodness and possibility being evoked in the individual, and then the connection of others who want to do the right thing, sounds like what I'm understanding Quakerism says. We are the light. I appreciate what can happen as a reaction to negativity, what is sparked. It reminds me of diving. I remember when the natatorium in Indianapolis had platform diving, and I remember being in the natatorium and seeing that the highest platform was almost near the ceiling. And the pool was deep enough for people to go low enough. And they had windows on the side of the pool for the cameras, for the television cameras to record. But I saw people at the pinnacle, at the highest point, also be able to go so low that you would think that just the impact would be too much. But that the natural buoyancy allows that individual to rise. I think we can expect in our own view of others, and especially of ourselves, that no matter what happens, we are buoyant to good if we allow it. There's no competition between what is good and evil. There is an authority that will allow us to be buoyant in our consciousness, in our conscience, and then we can be prompted to do something, like go to the grocery store with a friend, or go to a meeting, or just be in the silence and expect good. Because there's so much loud negativity going on. We're not relegated to plummeting down. We are yeasted up to rise, in my opinion.
Friends, let us stand and sing together our closing hymn, number 271, Simple Gifts. And a young lady waited on me that I had never seen before. She was from India. She was very young, a teenager. I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "I grew up in India. My family moved here recently." And she had a job working at Frank's there on the square in Danville. She explained to me that she was a student at the high school. I said, "How do you like it there?" And she said, "I feel so loved. I feel so loved." Trust young people. Trust the grace and compassion that often accompanies youth. The acceptance, the openness. Let them lead us. Trust young people. I'm done preaching. Turn and greet friends.